Well, Matt, you've done it. I warned you about cyberbullying, but you just wouldn't stop.
Cyberbullying.
You wouldn't stop making fun of Black Hawk Down. Hawk
You screwed
Ops.
it up.
What
you
is it?
screwed it up. You,
Okay,
you
we'll do
screwed
it
it
again.
up.
What
You did
is it? What is it?
It was
Delta Force.
Delta Force.
This
Hawk
is why
Ops.
this is the Arena Breakout Infinite crap all over again. All right, I'm starting over.
No. That's the intro now.
No.
Now you know. Now you know how it feels to feel awkward because you got made fun of.
All right.
with lies.
Well, you know
But
what?
this time it's your fault.
This isn't a lie, though. This isn't a lie. You made fun of Delta Force Hawk Ops so many times, you wouldn't stop making fun of their silly name that they changed the name, Matt. They got rid of Hawk Ops. I don't know is it just Delta Force now? I don't know what
I think it's just Delta Force, yeah.
Yeah. They were just like, Matt was making fun of us on his podcast. And
I did poke fun at the name. It wasn't as bad as Arena Breakout Infinite, but it was a little bit of a awkwardness to it. So I like the change.
Yeah, it's good. It just didn't roll off the tongue. But
does not.
like, you know what? I think I'm gonna just keep calling it Hawk Ops because it's fun to say Hawk Ops. You're just gonna. Now that I'm used to it, I like it now. I like it.
If God of War can do a reboot, I think Delta Force of all games, considering I don't think there's been a recent one in a very, very long time.
No.
I think it's okay for them to be like, yeah, we're back and it's going to be a little different. And yeah, it's fine.
They showed off more gameplay at Gamescom. So Gamescom's been going on this past week and it's been all the rage. They showed off a new trailer there for some of the extraction stuff. And it's so funny to see the classic single player stuff juxtaposed with the modern multiplayer stuff, because the modern multiplayer stuff looks campy as all heck. Like it just looks ridiculous. It
is.
Yeah, it is, but it's just like super. People are throwing grenades that turn into like shields, and you're just like, whatever. It's cyber warfare.
It's literally Battlefield 2042, but with some differences, right? So
yeah. And then they juxtapose that to like the realistic military Black Hawk Down scenario, and you're just like, these are two different games. Let's just be honest about it.
Yeah, they are
completely different games, and they're just like, they're both Delta Force. I'm like, sure they are. Yeah. Anyway, it's I think that game announced a release date or something like that. I can't remember.
I think they did, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah. That's cool. What excited you about Gamescom so far? Have you been watching any of it?
I didn't really stay tuned for a ton. So no, I don't really have the best answer for you. Was there anything that was exciting you in particular? I'm excited about all sorts of games. There isn't like one that stuck out to me though.
It was nice to see some more Arc Raiders information. Apparently there was some
I saw a trailer, but it was just like it was a whole nothing burger.
You had to dig for it. It was kind of annoying. So there's I think there are some backdoor events at Gamescom where you go in there, you get to see a special presentation. I'm not sure if people got to play it or they just saw some live gameplay or something like that, but there's people talking about it online, so I kind of dug into it a little bit, and it looks interesting. Arc Raiders initially was going to be a free-to-play title back when they talked about it in 2021, sometime, whenever it was announced, quite a while ago.
It's been a minute.
And now it's going to be a $40 extraction shooter, PvPvE.
So it's Tarkov, but yeah. I think third person.
Tarkov, third person, dystopian future. I don't think it's on an alien planet. I think it's on our planet, but just in some weird, crazy future
with big robots and stuff like that.
Yeah. The graphics look great. If one thing Embark has shown themselves to be able to do is make a good looking game, the finals looks incredible. They really took that Unreal tech and pushed it to the max. And Arc Raiders looks no different. It looks fantastic.
Yeah.
That said, coming out with an extraction shooter that has, I don't know, a few twists here or there could be a challenge in this market. I do hope for the best for them. I think their visuals are going to turn some heads regardless. So hopefully people are in the mood for another extraction shooter to get into it. But yeah, I'm kind of rooting for Embark because it's kind of a bunch of ex-DICE developers and other guys, and they're taking risks. At least the finals was a risk. It's harder to know with Arc Raiders because of how little they've shown of it, but visually, I'm attracted to the game. So
I'm interested by the $40 price tag because I don't mind paid. I mean, I feel like free-to-play games have kind of warped our perception of what is value these days. And we'll get to a clear example of that here in a second. But the $40 price tag, considering there's going to be stuff like Delta Force that has their extraction mode, which I believe is 100% free. The only thing I think that's going to be paid for that game is the single player. And while it's not perfect, it has its issues, especially with like netcode and stuff like that. Like it's a pretty comparable extraction mode and experience if you're just wanting to play that and you're new and the idea of $40 could be a big turnoff for a lot. And I'm a little wary, but we'll see if they can deliver.
It's a good cheat deterrent, right? Think about how many games are ruined by cheaters and how many, I mean, even though Tarkov is kind of in that boat to a degree. I was
going to say, Tarkov can cost a pretty penny depending on what version you get, and they've got tons of cheaters.
Yeah, but at least I'd say, before the game explodes into mainstream popularity, it can be a decent cheat deterrent, I guess, to a degree. And then if they go crazy mainstream, then hopefully they have the money to write up some good anti-cheat software to deal with the next level stuff. But yeah, I think the free-to-play, I don't know what you want to call it, the epidemic of free-to-play games has, it's definitely warped our perceptions, and it's made the market very a where, like, I've been following a lot of indie games recently because I'm just kind of researching them and following them. And like an indie game will a solo dev will put out their game that they've worked on for like 4 years and they'll charge $20 for it, and people are like, $20. And it's like, where else can you buy somebody's work that they spent 4 years making for like $20? And so it's just this interesting juxtaposition of, we've got Call of Duty, which can give us an insane amount of content for $60 because they sell so many copies of it, where a smaller title's so the price situation is very interesting, and I hope it works out for Arc Raiders. I have no problem shelling out money for a game that looks interesting, but we're in this world, I think, of time is the currency right now. There's just so many good games to play that we're never lacking for interesting titles these days. We're like, it's just, if you go back 1 to 2 years, you have so much content that you haven't probably played yet, right? And just the wealth of games, unless you're a crazy streamer like Matimio and you play everything, but you're a normal person who has normal gaming hours, you most likely have a huge backlog of stuff. So yeah, it's tough to compete with a $40 game when you're like, it's like an extraction shooter. How many of those are on the market right now? Tons.
It's starting to get a little flooded with them.
Yeah. So I'm rooting for Embark. I haven't seen enough of it to become super interested in it, but hopefully that'll be revealed more. And then they're going to be going up against Marathon too, right? Another.
Yeah. Well,
assuming
we'll see,
that happens.
Bungie's really struggling right now.
Yeah.
The reason why I wanted to bring up the free-to-play stuff and the $40 is that and we'll get back to Gamescom here in a second. I wanted to kind of segue a little nicely. Concord released a dozen celebrations. It is probably one of the biggest.
Tens of people. Enjoy. Yeah.
It's probably one of the biggest I think it's considered a AAA style game. I mean, the amount of like money that went into it. It was in development for 8 years, apparently, according to a developer.
8 years?
Yeah, that's what I guess a dev said. And it didn't get past 1,000 concurrent players on Steam.
That's really tough.
Yeah. And
what was the price? It was free to play. Oh, it was free, right?
It's not free to play.
No,
it's $40. It's $40.
You segued with free to play, so I was.
So because it's changed our perception of, I think, what value is, or what games are worth these days, and what people are willing to actually fork out for a game. That $40 price tag could be a limiting factor for Arc Raiders because of what we're seeing in something like in Concord, right?
Yeah. Do you think it's like So being a game developer and wanting to make video games is such an appealing career for so many people. And I think it's led to market saturation to a degree where it's like, do you want to be a software developer for a file management company, or do you want to make video games? Like most people with that skill set are going to be like, I'll take the pay cut to go be a game dev because that's way more fun, you know?
Right. I'd like to have fun with it.
Yeah, it's more exciting. But now we've got indie devs who are solo devs or small teams making games. We've got AA studios that are making super competent games now. Those are some of the games I'm most excited for, is teams of like around 30 people-ish, you know?
Like Helldivers.
Yeah, making games that are just blowing up huge. And then you got AAA studios that are endlessly just throwing money into projects. We've got just so much game competition out there right now where you can look at Concord and say, man, it's a very competent game in all these factors. It's not super innovative looking. It does a couple little things here and there, but it kind of just blends into the rest of the overly saturated market of similar games and just disappears. And it's pretty unusual for a game of that much money, but whatever they did with it, they screwed up on figuring out their niche, standing out from the crowd, and also marketing. Like I heard very little about Concord.
I don't know if because I mean they had the big trailers, and there's that secret level thing that was announced at Gamescom where it will showcase, I think, like 15 games worlds in a sort of Love, Death, and Robot format, where it'll be like short little videos and movies showcasing these worlds, and Concord is going to be in that, right? Like that cost a lot of money. They had the big cinematic trailer at some events before that were kind of introducing people to the world, which also cost a lot of money. So I don't think the marketing was non-existent, but I don't know if they saw the writing on the wall and maybe they had to like tone things down or something. But I believe Golem had more concurrent Steam or players than Concord did, and I don't like. I know I played it. I did play it.
You played Golem or Concord?
Concord, sorry. So I played Concord, and as you said, it's average, mid. It's not bad. It's not terrible. Like characters move around well. The mechanics are actually interesting. There's some really fun characters there. You know, they have their moments. But the thing is after the 4.5 hours that I played, I'm like, I'm good. Like I feel like I've experienced what this game has to offer, and it doesn't really have that it factor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yep. Because you're playing TDM, you're playing domination in a 5v5 hero-based environment where none of the game modes really feel like they facilitate any structure for a hero shooter. And it just results in just kind of this bland nothing.
Yeah. Do you think the market is realizing now that and this happened with World of Warcraft. People were like, oh, we just need a small percentage of WoW's market and we'll be competitive. But they didn't get it because everybody goes, well, I'll just play WoW instead. Because if I only have the budget to subscribe, right? That's back when you subscribe to your internet games to one game. And if I can only do one game, that's going to be WoW.
Play WoW. Yeah.
And so nobody would even get 10%. They wouldn't get 5%. They wouldn't get 2%. You know, they get like maybe 1% if they were lucky, and then they would just crash and burn. Do you think we're seeing the same thing with like kind of the Overwatch effect, where Overwatch blew up so big and created a new essentially genre of, I don't know if I'd say new genre, you could say Team Fortress.
Team Fortress.
Yeah, but Team Fortress was kind of,
when people talk about hero shooters, what game do they reference?
Yeah, exactly.
They reference Overwatch. They don't usually reference Team Fortress.
Do you think it's kind of, we have room for the main big one and like maybe one or two side variants, and then like that's it? I don't know. Because you got the Marvel knockoff one, which, let's be honest, it might just evaporate in the next couple of months or something.
But it's fun. Like, it's weirdly fun playing as your favorite superheroes and villains and just like beating each other.
Who doesn't want to be
oddly
Iron
fun?
Man? Yeah. It's exactly what the movies portrayed, is like all the heroes clashing and fighting each other. And you're like, oh yeah, we can do that now in a competitive environment. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. But you're right. I don't know if it's going to last. It's very, very, very good question.
Yeah. I think I think companies have to invent new games or stop investing in like basically knockoffs of the exact same games that are already out, you know?
Right. And I do agree. And I think you're onto it. I think its gameplay is just kind of just mediocre, and visuals, like it's pretty, but it's not, it's just kind of, it doesn't do anything like interesting with the visuals, and the character designs is very bland. You've got a chick who's got like a rocket launcher, who's wears like a space helmet. You got a big dude who's like blue and has a red face. It's like, it doesn't really, a lot of people are harping on the character actual design and the look of them, that they're just not like, I want to play as that character, right? Like the the super edgelord badass guy isn't really in this game. And while it's super cringy and, you know, very cliche, it works for a reason, because people just like playing the cool characters. Yeah. And that might very well be a factor. I'm just so blown away. Because it's not a terrible game, but there are terrible games that have more concurrent viewers or players than Concord. I think people are going to study this game.
Because guess what? There weren't Golem competitors on the market. You know, that was the only Golem game out. And people are like, I desperately want a Golem game, even if it's the worst thing ever created. Yeah. And so they got more players.
It's crazy, though. I think they're going to study this and like figure out like what the hell went wrong. And studios are going to be, it's going to be a cautionary tale of, it doesn't, just because you put in the money and it looks good, at least, you know, polish wise, doesn't mean it's going to actually translate to sales.
I think we'll get more of the story later, kind of like how we got with, like, remember when EA destroyed SimCity with their amazing new SimCity game. Yeah. And then we get the story later that like the producers knew it was going to fail if they didn't put more money into the server costs and all this stuff, and they just pushed it out the door.
They just did it anyways.
You get sort of a, oh, okay, I understand why it was horrible at launch now, but we didn't understand at the time. So now I think we're going to see like, oh yeah, they just decided to cut the budget because they already knew, and they figured they could maybe recoup a little bit of their investment.
Yeah, it feels like there could have been like a single player. Like if there was a single player that went along with it, then maybe that would have been like, if it was well done and it was well made and you could connect with the characters and stuff, then that could have been segued into the multiplayer. Yeah. I don't know. This legitimately I think is one of the worst, like biggest disasters for a AAA style game in a long, long time. Yeah. And I kind of feel bad, even though some of the devs have had a little bit of a salty response. I get why they're salty, because like they put a lot of time into it. Yeah. Not to excuse their
8 years on a game and then you're just like, people hate it or whatever, and you're like, well, it was cool and innovative 8 years ago when we were first building it, and then for whatever reason it took so long that it wasn't new or cool anymore by the time it launched. Like, yeah, maybe it would have had a little more staying power 3 years ago, but they're kind of right in that wave too of post-COVID market saturation, over gamification of everything, where people are just like, I just want to chill and play solitaire for a little bit or something. And then they're like, play our new hero shooter, and you're like, whatever, man. I can't be bothered, man.
Yeah. So not to excuse the devs that are like kind of lashing out a little bit, but I would also be, if you put that much time and effort and then you just see it kind of fumble like that, it would be really, really tough to see that happen.
Now, coming back to free to play, Paths of Exile 2. Have you seen any of the latest stuff on that?
I have. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to it.
Paths of Exile is the first Path of Exile free to play also? Yeah. It's wild. They offer so much for a free to play game. They have
like new seasons with new mechanics like every couple of months. It's wild.
So they showed more gameplay of Paths of Exile 2 at Gamescom, and not only does it look incredible, it's like Diablo 4 level visuals, if not better in some regards, but they have 100 plus, it's either 100 exactly or over 100 unique bosses that are like handcrafted, hand animated bosses that are all different, have different attacks, different everything to them.
I don't know how these companies are doing this. Yeah. We'll get to Wukong in a second, the new game. Yeah. The amount of bosses in that are all animated uniquely, like what? How did you do this? So go continue.
Yeah. So we know that Paths of Exile, the first one, is massively successful. Yeah. It filled that void that Diablo left for so many years, because it takes Blizzard like 10 years to make a new Diablo game for whatever reason. And so Paths of Exile was there to fill that void, and they did a damn good job of it. And from many players' opinions, I would say made a better skill progression mechanic that gave way more flexibility, where you're creating a class that is more akin to what you want to do, as opposed to trying to figure out a powerful class within a very strict set of rules, which is more Diablo style. So yeah, they made a great game. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a game that is more hard because they're indie and they're not trying. I mean, they're trying to appeal to a huge audience at this point, but they allowed themselves to be much more flexible and experiment with broader systems. And they have 10 plus years of experience now, while Diablo needs to appeal to the largest audience and they need to make it a little bit more casual. And so I feel like it's the more hardcore version of like what they're Diablo is sort of going for, and it's done very well for them.
Yeah. So I think that game's going to be massive.
I think it will be too. Yeah.
I'm excited for that.
There was this one boss that they showed off where it was like in the middle of this pit, and it's a full skeleton, and then you take it out and the skeleton like falls to the ground and then slides down into the pit, and it was like, damn, like this is a top down, this is incredible. Like, what is this? What are these animations? It was very well done.
Yeah, their devlog showing like the artist just being like drawn some crazy thing with tentacles and like a head hanging off of it, and then they cut to the game. They're like, whoa, they just put that in there as a boss, and all the tentacles are like attacking you and you have to dodge it. And man, that looks really cool.
Yeah.
I was impressed with the visuals of Paths of Exile 2 back when they first started showing trailers for it, which is maybe 2 years ago at this point. It was a while ago. And it still looks great. So yeah, I'm pumped to load this bad boy up at 4K and just let it run. Oh, did you see the new? I know you're not a hardware guy because you buy a piece of computer hardware every 4 or 5 years, but
true.
The new OLED gaming monitors.
No,
they're like 360 hertz and 480 hertz OLED.
And how much do they cost?
They didn't say the price.
Okay, because your child.
Yeah. Your kid's not going to college if you buy one of these, but yeah. It looks great. I mean,
I know it would be.
I wasn't there, but I mean, OLED plus like all the gaming stuff, because we've been gaming OLED on like TVs and stuff for a while, but those aren't like specifically designed for gaming. So I'm very excited about this new display tech, man. It's gonna be dope.
Nice. I mean, new technology is always fun.
Yeah. Yep.
Crisper images, higher frame rate. Can't go wrong.
Anything else at Gamescom catch your eye?
I mean, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, super stoked for that. Yeah. They showed off a little bit, which was fun. I usually don't want, so I get excited for games, but once I know I'm going to like a game, or I'm all in on it, I kind of just go radio silent, because then I don't want to spoil myself. So many games these days exactly. I don't want to know all like, oh my God, that boss looks awesome. Oh, that was in the trailers. Like, well, I haven't seen it, so I'm witnessing it right now and I can experience it, day one. But yeah, so I didn't really watch a ton of those trailers. Yeah.
It does look really good. And from what I've heard about it from people on the floor that played it, I said it's like the first one, does all the things that the first one does good, polished more, looks better, has more features, and kind of stays true to some of the humor that was in the original game.
It was a pretty funny game. Yeah. There's definitely some quests, especially with a drunk monk or priest. Sorry. That was definitely a highlight for sure in the first game. Yeah. I'm hoping the combat's more interesting, because the game is fantastic, but the combat eventually devolves into just waiting for the enemy to attack, because if you attack them, they'll just get like a master stroke, which is such a funny word and phrase. And so you'll just go for an attack and they'll be like, bah! And now you're bleeding. You're like, oh, cool. So it hopefully will be a little bit more dynamic and incentivize you to actually try to get combos off and to attack instead of just standing there. Because that did get a little dull at the end. Hopefully,
because they did. What's cool about Kingdom Come is that they really tried to innovate a lot of stuff, including the swordplay, right? They didn't just follow a formula that another game developed. They were like, how would we do realistic swordplay? And they came up with their own system, is really hard to do. And usually you have some good stuff and some bad stuff. Hopefully with the second time around, they can fix some of the things that didn't work out so well with the first game.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what they said, is that this is the game that they wanted to make. They just didn't have the money to do it, and they didn't have the expertise to do it. So now that they've had all that time to work on the first game, this is basically, hopefully, their masterpiece.
That's kind of the indie dev story. I see it with lots of titles where the first one is cool, the idea's there, people are excited about it, but it just didn't quite get there. But they spent all that time developing the tech, and then the second game is like, let's just build on that tech, and then that's the real good one.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I see you have Dune. The new Dune game looks at least intriguing.
I'm curious
what I'm fascinated by
what
is that it's mainly focused around PvP. So there will be dungeons and there will be things for you to explore and gather, but it's a cooperative game where you eventually, once you hit end game, will all be about going out with your little crew and trying to get spice or whatever minerals and things like that you're trying to harvest, and then having lookouts for other clans that could come on over and try and like dunk on you. And it could be hundreds of people around the map, like going after you in this humongous desert. Like, it is apparently just gigantic, and it's all about like those conflicts and trying to come out on top, which could be really cool, but also could be super griefy and not fun.
I like that this excites me in the way that like old school MMO announcements would excite me, when they're like, it's going to be this huge open world and you can do all this stuff. And this is back when people thought they could beat World of Warcraft, and they were trying, but these guys are trying to do it. This feels like an old school game with new school kind of visuals and technology and stuff behind it. They shoot it like you can be a sniper in it. You can be a melee class. You get your cool little hover jets. The visuals look really cool. They're very much in line with the Dune movie stuff. There is a bunch of PvE, so it's not just PvP oriented, but maybe the end game is mostly PvP focused.
Yeah. I watched a video from another content creator, Force. He does some really great stuff, and he said that there will be dungeons and there will be things, but from his video specifically, he really harped on the point that it's not the main draw for the game necessarily. So maybe he was wrong. I could have gotten the information wrong, but yeah.
Yeah, they've got my eye. I'm definitely going to check it out. Like I'm 100% going to play it based on just how it looks and the super ambitious concept of the game.
Yeah,
to make it an open world kind of survival shooter to an extent.
Yeah,
which is not. I don't think that's really been done aside from like kind of DayZ-ish, but this seems like on a bigger scale.
Yeah. And hopefully their server infrastructure works properly.
Yeah, and maybe they're going to cheat it a little bit where it's like kind of like Destiny, where you just end up being around other players that maybe are on the same map, and then they kind of put you in the same server, but maybe you're not in like a giant persistent world necessarily.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, but I am interested enough to want to check it out.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm starting to get a little less excited about Indiana Jones. The visuals did catch me the first time around, but now that they're showing a little more, it kind of feels like a game on rails, and I mean,
it is.
Yeah. It's hard to know sometimes from a trailer, and then they show more and you're like, oh, okay, I think it's more or less just a string of QuickTime events that I kind of do some stuff in between them,
Yeah.
But we'll see. That's me kind of predicting what a game's going to be like from the trailer, but I'm getting a little concerned.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The huge IP, and if they put a great game behind it, it could be massive.
And if the story and the wit and everything, they can capture that same like vibe and everything, it could be really just a fun story, just a fun trip in your role playing as Indiana Jones.
Yeah. Well, I love the like tomb raiding stuff from Indiana Jones.
Looks very much puzzle focused.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that could be that. That's what I said when I first saw it. I was like, I hope there's a good amount of puzzle gameplay in this, because the actual like punching Nazis and whipping people looked pretty lame, to be honest. I was like, okay, it looked like press E to whip guy or something like that. I was like,
Oh,
okay.
oh my.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've already got plenty of games
Plenty
where
of
we
those
whip
games,
people.
don't you, Level? Yeah,
I don't need
yeah.
another game where I'm whipping people.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Kink.
Yeah, Mouse PI for Hire is still looking great.
Haven't heard of that one.
Should check out a trailer, dude. It looks cool. It's the black and white animated one where it looks like Mickey Mouse.
Yeah. That does look really good. Yep.
Yeah. So that looks cool. Inzoi, am I saying that right?
I have no idea.
I looked up the name earlier to get the pronunciation. I think it's Inzoi. It's a competitor to The Sims. It looks kind of janky, but it's
that's fair.
But it's going for a more realistic visual style. Their trailers, like you could see the frame rate dipping on it, like hard. So I don't know what to think of it. I'm surprised it's taken this long for some company to try and make a real competitor to The Sims, considering what a cash cow that franchise is.
I mean, there's like thousands of dollars worth of DLC for that franchise. Like, what the hell is this?
I mean,
it's crazy.
Yeah. It is crazy. I think it's interesting that somebody's making a competitor. I have no interest in playing it, but nor do I have an interest in playing The Sims, really. So, I don't know. I found it interesting. Maybe we'll be hearing more about it later. I'm skeptical based on how jank the trailers looked, but we'll see.
Speaking of interesting, have you heard of Valve's secret game that's no longer a secret?
Yeah,
Deadlock.
I did get invited to it, and I didn't install it yet because I don't know. I'll check it out. Did you play it?
I love it. I'm so addicted. It's a problem.
Can you stream it yet?
You can stream it, yeah.
Okay.
It is fantastic.
Really?
It is still early in development. There are literally walls and stuff like that have like no textures on it. It's just basically a wall. And clearly things are still, in development. But man, it is really, really fun.
I didn't realize that I didn't install it because I figured it was NDA'd, but you're saying you can stream it now.
You can stream it and you can post videos about it now. Yeah. Well, because that just happened like a couple of days ago. They lifted everything.
If it happened on like Friday or weekend, but So give me an overview of the gameplay. Like, how does it differentiate itself?
Well, it's basically Team Fortress meets a MOBA. So it is, I believe the same guy that the head guy, Ice Frog, I think his name is, that made works on Dota 2. And I think this was a passion project. So I heard, I could be wrong. Maybe I'm getting my misinformation, but it is basically just that, where it is a third-person game. You have your character. You go and there's four different lanes. There's 4 different lanes, and your job is to pretty much just play like you would in any other MOBA, where you're last hitting creeps. You are doing all these things to try to take out the enemy's towers, kill all their towers, get to the boss or their base and win, right?
Yeah.
But it does so many interesting and fun things that keeps it engaging the entire time. The creeps, for example, you need to last hit them, and when you last hit them, you get souls, which is basically your gold, your currency to be able to buy items. And what's fascinating is that once they die, you get the initial amount, you get some souls there, but then there's more souls that will fly up above their head for a couple of seconds. Now, if those souls, they'll eventually pop like 3 seconds later, and then you'll get more souls. But you can then shoot them to either get that immediately, or the enemy can shoot yours and deny you your souls, and they will get the souls. So it's this really fun little dynamic in the beginning of the game. It's less so later on because it's just chaos at that point. It's a lot more team fighting.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to take out the creeps and get the last hit initially. I need to save my rounds so that I have enough to be able to not get denied my souls, or I'm trying to then deny them their souls. And so there's this great back and forth. Also, you're just trying to shoot each other too. Everyone has a weapon. Everyone has a long range weapon, I think, for the most part. I don't think there's anyone that's just strictly melee. And so it's literally a third person game, a shooter, but it works somehow. And it's so much more engaging for me compared to something like Smite, which I realize has been around forever. But Yeah, it is a lot of fun.
Cool. Dang. So Valve still got it, is what you're saying.
They still do. They really do. It is. There's something about MOBAs that are really fun in the sense where you get your perfect build, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get your character, you start off, you're like, I'm going to be a carry this game. But sometimes you don't get to the end game where you can finally carry. But when you do, and you're like fully decked out, and you're just running around the map, and you are basically a raid boss at that point where they just can't kill you, there's something that in my brain that just like turns on at that, and it's that gratification because you become this god around the map, and it's fun. And
that's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
My gosh. I heard that that when Valve does projects, they don't make games for the sake of making games. They have this weird I forgot what they call it, structure within their company where everybody's on the same level. What do they call it? It's not horizontal.
So they don't have like bosses.
Yeah, it's like horizontal management or something like that. I don't know. But basically when people get inspired on a project and they get really excited about it and it starts attracting more people who want to work on it, they just kind of naturally form teams in the company. And that's how
which is so bizarre.
It's super weird. There's very few companies that can afford to operate like this, but Valve makes
They make so much money. It just doesn't. So they can do whatever they can literally just do nothing. Be like, yeah, we're gonna pay you. Just enjoy your time.
Yeah. So while other companies like EA are just like, we gotta have 20 games come out this year, and they gotta do this well, and blah blah blah. Valve is just like, hey guys, I come up with a cool game idea. Do you guys like this? Yeah. If we all like it, maybe we could work on it together and make a game. Like they're kind of like an indie dev inside of a giant studio somehow. So I imagine if you said like this was a passion project of one of the main guys working on Dota, then that very much sounds in line with how some of their other projects started out. I heard Half-Life Alyx was kind of in that vein as well, where they just,
I wouldn't be surprised.
They're kind of inspired by something and just got carried away, and they're like, we got a game now.
Yeah. What's going back to Concord a little bit, where the character designs in that really aren't that interesting. In this game, it's just like each character is really unique. And then when you finally, it clicks, and you're like, oh, that's how you play them. You're like, oh, that's how you play them. It's like a completely different play style. And it's just, it's fun to play as these classes. It's fun to get into the groove of like, oh, this is how you're supposed to synergize with other players in other situations. And I think that's what keeps me coming back and playing it off stream and just really digging it.
Dang. Okay.
It's a MOBA though.
I might have to check it out. I missed the MOBA wave. I was into other things when MOBAs were big, you know? But
so there is a big learning curve at the start, especially if you've never been involved with MOBAs. You're like, what the hell am I even supposed to do? Because it's,
I have played a MOBA before, so I understand the basics, but like when you're saying last hit, you mean that's like get the last point of damage so you get the the souls, right? For the creature. Okay. Yeah. Got that.
So and it's not just last hitting, it's not just the denying, it's overall like map of like where I should be going right now. Should I be going for a team fight? Well, it's like I'm right next to a tower. I could just take out the tower, and that actually would benefit my team more because then we get other perks and our creeps can keep going forward. Yeah. So it's not just about taking out the other enemies. So there's a lot more. There's so much more going on. Also, there's a crazy movement system. So you can slide, and while you're sliding, you have infinite ammo. You can't slide for very long, but there's some items in the game that allows you to, I think, to extend that slide. You also have a jump, double jump. You can dash in midair, and you like the bars will like refill. So you can only dash so many times. That gives you like crazy movement. You can then get items that will give you more dashes so that you can just be like a freaking lunatic. And all of that accumulates into just like it's
nice.
I think Shroud made a post. He's like, this game has more movement-based tech than like any other third-person shooter he's ever played. And it's a MOBA. And I can't even imagine
so the skill ceiling's going to be massive.
Yes. Which also scares me a bit. Because I'm like, I don't want to go against these absolute lunatics who are just like skill
Well,
bouncing around
you'll get
everywhere.
your little ranking, and then you'll be playing against your ranks.
There we go. Perfect.
And Diamond will be like pure insanity.
Yeah.
Where the shrouds of the world are just like
hitting shots like absolute madmen. Mm-hmm.
That could be a fun one to watch too for like casting and stuff.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It is a bit challenging because when you're looking top down in a MOBA, you can see everything that's on your screen. But when it's a third person, you're like, I can only see what's directly in front of me.
Yeah,
so
that's what I
very
liked
aware
about
of your minimap.
Watching a MOBA is I didn't have to be as familiar with like every nuance about the game because I could still follow it pretty well from the map. So as long as they they could create a custom casting, user or whatever that gets better camera angles or something.
And I think they already have that. I think they've got you can actually watch. I think I saw a video where someone was literally like going back and reviewing like a match, and they had it top down. You could see everything.
If that's they've also got replays. Yeah, built in. That'd be dope. Yeah.
They've also got built-in guides where you can like vote, and people will have their guides on the side, and you can browse them, and it will give you a guide as to how you should build your character. And like what points you should put your skills into,
that's
and
really
then
cool.
And then your items. So that's in the game. It's also really obvious of like what buffs you have and like what damage increases. Like, I have normally a 10 movement speed. Why am I moving at slower? You look over and you're like, I'm at -50 movement speed right now. They must have put something on me. So it's like really clear. There's a lot of great quality of life in this just alpha, whatever it is, clearly in development. I think people are going to take notice. I think this could potentially be the next big giant MOBA game, but it's too early to tell. But I think it's got up to like 80,000. Yeah, it's invite only right now.
I see you, and you're excited. Yeah, if they got up to 80,000 and it's invite only, that's insanity right there. Yeah, that's like they'll just get as many players as they open it up to at this point.
Yep.
That's really cool, man. It's exciting. I mean, God, why is Valve so good at stuff?
I don't know.
They really
I don't know. They got something.
It's this horizontal management, whatever it's called, setup of their company. They only work on stuff that's super cool and exciting, and they just cut out all the rest of it because they can.
It feels like it has the it factor right now.
Yeah, very
You're
cool.
Just like this, just vibes. Yeah.
It's a AAA project being developed like an indie project, and I think that's the secret, right? Because you need the passion and the risk taking of the indie dev and the resources of the AAA dev, combining those two together, and you get a mega game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes.
Maybe sometimes.
Otherwise, or you waste a crap load of money, but it's one of those two, right? Man. Let's see. So yeah, that's mostly what I was excited about from Gamescom. Starship Troopers is doing a 1.0 update on October 11th. Do you think, I believe that game came out before Killzone 2 launched, and
Helldivers 2?
Yeah, Helldivers 2. Too many,
It's fine. You're
too
good.
many games. Do you think Helldivers is kind of stealing a little bit of that Starship Troopers thunder, because it is kind of just Starship Troopers in many ways?
Kind of, but it's on a bigger scale in the sense that there's more people running around.
Yeah,
because
the bugs
Helldivers is Helldivers is 4, and this one goes up to like 16 or something. You can have a lot of people around the map.
Yeah.
So it feels more like a Battlefield sort of situation. I remember I played it near launch, and it was okay. Yeah. It was very buggy. It was very laggy and everything. So if they've tightened that up, and so it's not a mess, and they've added in some cool features, I'll check it out. But it definitely is much more indie, and I think Helldivers has stolen some thunder from it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Helldivers is kind of a ripoff of, we talked about this when it came out, of Starship Troopers, like the IP, not so much this game, but so they have the bugs, and then they have the propaganda stuff, and they almost do that better than the actual Starship Troopers game does to a degree.
I'd argue that they do.
Yeah,
I think Helldivers is still one of my favorite games this year. It is. Mm-hmm. It does what it does almost perfectly. Balance issues aside.
The thing that I did really enjoy about Starship Troopers was the 16 player co-op base defense against the bugs, which is kind of a fun concept because you're literally building all the walls and the ammo resupply points and turret towers and all this stuff to defend against the bugs. So you're like, okay, A team's like taking the north wall, B team's taking the south wall, and you're like breaking it up into those sections. And then you're like, okay, we got our spot locked down. Oh no, A team's getting overrun. You start like moving it. Like there's some really fun base management, base defense stuff that happens with a larger team layout, which I haven't seen in too many games before of that scale. There's a lot of games that are like that with like 4 people, you know, but not a lot with 16 people and then wave assaults of like giant bugs that are like climbing over the walls. They got as close as I've seen anybody get to replicating the cool movie scenes in that regard. So hopefully they can kind of differentiate themselves by focusing a lot on those base defense mechanics. But yeah, it did get old after a little while though. That was the only problem with it, is you're like, cool, this was really cool. I played it for like 4 or 5 hours and I think I got my fill, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with it. But yeah. I'm rooting for them as well though. I just like Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
And anybody willing to... So, okay, Matt, I haven't played it because I just knew I wasn't going to play it. But I mean, really the biggest story of gaming, just period, is Black Myth Wukong. I mean...
Return to Monkey!
Dude, I was looking at the Steam stat. It has not really gone down. The 24-hour peak is 2 million concurrent players on Steam.
Yep.
Steam!
Yep.
It's also a console release too, I believe. I think
so,
came out on console. But now, part of that is because they've kind of unleashed the Chinese player base on this game.
You make it sound like they've unleashed the Chinese players.
Well, okay. The reason why I say that is because publishing a game in China is insanely difficult. You basically have to be in with a publisher that is in with the government of China, and China's like giving them the okay, because the amount of things on the you can't have this in your video game list is like it disqualifies 99.9% of games. It's insane. You can't have a game with time travel in it. Like just weird crap like that, right? I don't know why, but you just can't. So like most devs just don't bother because they're like, this list is going to be way too hard to hit. So this game got published in China, a huge AAA title, which is very rare for a lot of games. But
well, I think this is touted as like the first AAA single player game ever made. Well, not ever made, but like it's a big deal for China.
In China.
For China, yeah.
Yeah. I think it is. And it's also been hyped for years, and the visuals are insane. It's
incredible.
Yeah. Like I don't know how much money they put into this game, but it looks like they dropped money into the game.
Yeah. They did. They absolutely did.
So tell me about the gameplay like I've never seen a trailer for it.
So it's an interesting mix of kind of a Souls game, so Elden Ring, mixed with more of the action combat of something like God of War, where it is not entirely linear. There are a lot of different paths and areas that you can go to, but it's more of much more railroady in terms of like, this is a chapter you can explore in this chapter, but it's not going to be like an open world, right? But there are a lot of different paths, and we'll get to that here in a second. The combat is pretty basic. You've got your light attack that combos and it builds up focus. And that focus you can then use once you've built up enough. You can then use that on your heavier skills, which there's like 4 or 3 different versions of it. And that allows you to adapt to different situations and hit the enemy and do a lot of damage. You can transform into certain creatures and stuff like that for a brief amount of time to do some really cool moves. Maybe make them frozen and stun them for a bit, poison them, all sorts of different options. You've got your perfect dodging and dodging. There is technically a parry system, but it's a spell and it's on a cooldown, so you can't just parry everything. So it's not like Sekiro in that regard, but it is very Souls-like, where you are going to be fighting really awesome bosses. You're going to be dodging their attacks, but it's much more fast-paced and action-oriented, like a God of War.
Okay.
And it slaps. Yeah. Literally, you're just slapping people with your giant staff over and over and over again.
Fully positive reviews on Steam. It's 10 out of 10. Like, people are loving it.
I don't think it's a 10 out of 10. I think I don't think it's a 10 out of 10. I think it's very good. And especially considering, I think this is their very first game they've made from the studio. I could be wrong, but I am absolutely blown away by the amount of bosses and the amount of unique animations in this title. Every single boss you go against, and it's like one after the other, they're all unique animations. Like one time you'll be fighting a tiger who looks humanoid with a giant sword on his back in a pool of blood, who then brings up like blood tornadoes at you and does like, it's sick. Another time you're fighting this scorpion lord guy who like flings his tail around and like jettisons at you. And it's all like expertly done too, where it's like, this is when when you're supposed to dodge because of the animation and the way that they do it. You're like, oh, that's when I dodge. And you dodge and you're just like, holy crap. It's just these moments of just perfect dodge. And it's just like, you're in this vibe. It's awesome. Yeah. It's really, really cool. Now, well, it's not perfect. This is where the imperfections come for me personally. There's no map in the game. And some of the areas get really goddamn confusing. And because they're very visually similar, it can lead to like, where am I?
It's the Doom syndrome, where you get lost in the level and you're like, where's the red door? I got the red key. Yeah. Where's the red door?
Right.
Yeah.
And it can lead to not like a frustration or anything, but just like, I just don't really know where necessarily I should be going or if I'm missing things. What's really interesting is that almost every single chapter, I think there's going to be 5 or 6 chapters total. Every area has a secret area. Okay. And you either need to do like little quests that you find along the way. You'll defeat bosses and you'll maybe get like a unique item. And then if you get all those unique items, you can then open up a route that you didn't even know you could open up that will lead you to somewhere else.
What's in the secret area?
Bosses.
Okay.
Like just more content, just more things to enjoy. You'll get, and then so those bosses will then allow you to unlock new weapons and new armor and new things like that. They also take from the Souls franchise, where if you do those secret areas, it can unlock items that will then benefit you for like the final boss of that area. So in I won't say the chapter, but there was a boss that was like crazy hard and everything. And then I got this item that all of a sudden negated a big part, much like an Elden Ring, where if you do the exploration, you can use it. And then it really helps you in those moments. So they've taken from Souls, they've taken from these other games, and they've just, I don't know how they did it, dude.
Yeah.
Legitimately, the amount of bosses and how many unique animations there are. Like, how did you do this?
Oh my God.
It's very impressive. Well, and I'm not even done with the game.
They've been working on it for a long time, I believe. And I remember when they showed some of their first, like, they teased a dragon boss forever ago. And that was stunning to watch, like just visually. And they were already at that level of this game being absolutely stunning. And that was years ago. So they've just been cramming the game full of like more and more stunning, truly unbelievable content since then, it sounds like.
Yeah. So I'm really liking it. Really my only complaints is that because you only use a staff, you better like that staff, because you can't switch to anything else. Yeah, really. And that can be a little bit of, I guess, necessarily a downside. It doesn't really have that variety, but
you only get a lightsaber in the Jedi games, so.
Right. I mean, well, the Jedi, they do have technically different.
Oh yeah, I guess you get heavy
they've
saber.
Got like a big one.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
So even that has technically a little bit more, but because you can weave in, technically there's different stances with the heavy attacks that can kind of mix it up. But it's a small critique, because at the end of the day, you're fighting all these really awesome bosses that just one after the other. That is it's just fun. It starts off as a boss rush, and then it kind of turns more into a traditional sort of Souls where you have to do more exploration. But
cool. Sounds cool.
I give it a really solid recommendation if you're looking for that kind of game. It's really good. A lot of people are saying this is their game of the year, and I can understand why. I don't know if it's mine yet, but I haven't finished it. But it's definitely creeping up there. It's
Well, that's good, man. I hope that the success of this game in China maybe gets them to loosen up on some of their game laws over there, and just said, hey, you know what? Maybe games aren't that bad. Maybe we can relax a little bit on our crazy game restrictions. And I think they have a law where people are only supposed to be able to play an hour a day or something that nobody really follows. But weird stuff like that over there. I don't know. Maybe it can just loosen things up, and maybe the government over there will be like, man, this game's awesome. Wait, why are we
dope?
Why are we cracking down on video games so hard? Let's loosen up a little bit. Let's have some fun,
We'll see.
Yeah. That'd be cool. Well, that's good, man. I'm excited that we got competition from all over the world and at this quality level,
Yeah.
And it's not what I think we're used to getting from Chinese game companies, which can often be just microtransaction content light, mobile, whatever. This is like the AAA game.
And there is a story, but good luck trying to follow it if you don't know the Wukong lore and mythology. Okay. Good luck, because
do you know why it's like a monkey guy?
I mean, I know why it's Wukong. Yeah.
Okay.
No, there's a basic I have a basic understanding of what's happening, but there are cutscenes and there are things where just beautiful. Every chapter has its own animation or a stop motion animation, and it's gorgeous. You're on top of everything else, you're putting now in beautiful animations too. What is happening?
Yeah.
So
that's cool. Well, while you've been playing, top tier, world class, epic games that have been in development for the past 7 years with $100 million budgets, I got recommended a little indie game that's been developed by a solo guy. This was recommended to me by some fans who have been following my game project. They're like, you should check out this game called Valor.
Valor.
Yeah, it basically is an embodiment of some of the classic space games I used to play, and it's oddly addicting. I was like, oh, this game looks way too simple. I'm not gonna like it, and I hopped in and I'm like, well, I just gotta get the next spaceship, and then I'll stop playing. Oh, I just gotta upgrade my gun to the next thing. I just gotta get my mining skill ranked up a little, and then I'll stop playing. And I'm having fun with it. I'm impressed by what solo devs can do. Feels a little bit more like an engineering game first, in the sense that there's a lot of focus on the systems, and the artwork is kind of second place, but that's sort of what you get with an indie project most of the time, or a solo dev project, I should say.
Looks cool.
It's fun. I'm not giving it a huge recommendation out there, but if you do like chill games where you're like, you know what? I want to fly a spaceship. I want to build a spaceship fleet. I want to go around and conquer the galaxy, but also not
sounds
have to
super chill.
Well, but not have to deal with cutscenes.
Do you want to conquer the galaxy?
Yeah, but from a chill perspective.
I know.
What if you had a Star Destroyer, and eventually you could buy a second Star Destroyer, and then a third, and then eventually you've conquered the galaxy. But you could do that in a more chill manner.
Yeah, no, it's dope.
It is cool, and I do die in it. I push too far and then get killed. So it's chill in the sense that I'm not super upset when I die. It's more just reload from the last save, and keep going.
Yeah.
But it's fun. It's just got how some games, and I don't know how common this is. You might know better than me, but when you take every single progression system imaginable and then just cram it into one game, where you've got crafting, you got mining, you got you're ranking up your character stats, then you're ranking up items that you have, and then you're ranking up your crew and people that and then you're ranking, and it's just sometimes it feels too much, where I'm like, I think you could have a similar level of enjoyment if you spent more time on fewer systems than less time on like a billion systems.
Yeah.
And I think this game is a little bit of a victim to that, where you're just like,
it's too much.
How many menus do we need to keep track of all the different systems? And I don't know. But then I would imagine people who are like fully into the game are like, no, I want every possible progression system known to man.
Also makes it harder to balance.
Yeah. And I mean, I've already seen like there's some silly stuff in it where I'm like, oh, I guess I can just beat this guy that's like clearly way higher level than me. But, you know, I had some weird combo or something. Right. Yeah, but that is kind of accepted, I think, in indie games more, where if the balance is kind of out of whack, it's just because they pushed for too much freedom within the game, and people are just like, well, whatever, I figured out the weird combo to kind of break my build a little bit, and
yeah,
that's been fun for me. But if I want to try something less broken, I can veer off of my little exploit build or something. I think indie devs, at least at that scale, get a little bit more of a pass for that type of stuff. But anyway, I've been having fun with that. That's what I been spending more time than I want to admit, staying up late on the weekends, just playing my little Pew Pew spaceship game that reminds me of when I was like 12 years old, you know, playing Escape Velocity.
It's magical, isn't it? When you rekindle those early days.
Yep. I'm finding that's what I've been seeking more in my gaming life now, is my little nostalgia trips, as opposed to learning some crazy new thing. I'm like, no, I want my safe game that makes me feel. Oh man,
there's so many games where I'm like, man, this would be so much fun if I wanted to put like 20 hours into it to learn.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I could play this game, but I don't want to spend the 50 hours to actually get into it.
Yeah. And then the worst is when you spend the time and then you get into it, you're like, this isn't really that good.
This is not really for me. Yeah.
That's the one that sucks the most. That's how I felt about Homeworld 3. I was just like, man, I really spent some time trying to understand the nuance of the strategy. And I'm like, there's got to be more depth here. I'll just figure it out. And it's like, oh, there's not really.
Yeah.
Or the depth is kind of weird. And it's more just learning how to play around the game's poor mechanics versus learning how the game wants you to play, you know?
Yeah. I tried getting into Stormgate, that new real-time strategy game made by ex-Blizzard devs, and I played like 5 games. I lost every single match, and I'm not like a terrible real-time strategy. I mean, I'm not great, but I'm not, you know, like a brand new. And to get dunked on for like 5-6 games, I'm like, okay, is the matchmaking system just really bad, or? But it just didn't feel good either. Like it just nothing was clicking for me. I was like, do I really want to like spend the time to learn this game right now? I was like, no, I don't.
People still play StarCraft 2 like it's the premier RTS esports game.
The entire time I was playing this, I was like, man, I could just play StarCraft 2 right now and like enjoy myself infinitely more. It's like, why would I play this when there's StarCraft?
There was a new Command & Conquer trailer, but I don't know what it was. I didn't dig into it too much, but the trailer got me all kind of excited for like a proper CNC reboot. I would be down for that.
I think there's some other games that are doing something similar to Command & Conquer that are not actually under that name, but it's looking very like that. And that I think would be a lot of fun. It's interesting how just like the setting and the thematics can really change your interest in a title, especially if there's like a co-op or a single player experience that goes along with it. That makes it way more appealing. So you can kind of like dip your toes in.
Yeah. Oh, you should look at this game. Right. I've been following this game on Twitter. I think it's a really small team. It might even be a solo deb. Front RTS. It looks like Command & Conquer, but with just oozing style. You're like, oh,
damn.
Right? You seen like some of that? Doesn't that look cool?
That looks wild.
Yeah.
The aesthetics of it are really interesting.
Yeah. It's like very gray. It's like some
kind of reminds me of almost. I've never played like a Warhammer 40K, but a little bit like that vibe too.
Yeah, it's kind of got some like the tanks and the cannons kind of look like futuristic World War I stuff, where it's heavy steel, heavy mechanical stuff. The planet
heavy metal.
Yeah, the planet is very gray and like dystopian, and you're just sending waves of units at each other that are just getting like ripped to pieces through the like artillery shells landing around them. But yeah, I've been following this one. I'm like, I am for sure playing this when it launches. It looks really cool.
I'm gonna add that to my wish list. That looks dope.
Yeah.
It looks sick.
Yeah, I'm glad RTS is still alive and kicking. It's just kind of behind the scenes of mainstream game stuff. But there is apparently a very, very active player base for all stuff RTS, and there's still good money there. It's just for like smaller dev teams to capitalize on.
Yeah.
The big AAA games just don't care about it as much because they can't make their money, or it's too risky to drop millions and millions on it. But a small team now can make a pretty good RTS. So.
There's something so fun about getting like the right units in the right area and then having like winning a battle.
Yeah.
There's just something about that.
I like castle games. I'm trying to remember Lords of the Manor. I don't know what it was. Lord something, but where you would just build a castle and like every couple of seasons some army would attack your castle and then you'd have to like defend against it. And
you're not talking about Manor Lords, because that's different. That's like a Manor Lords is almost a settlement game with some light combat intermix. There wasn't really a castle that you were defending.
No.
Yeah. That came out recently, like this year.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. Something like that though.
Okay.
But yeah, I like those RTS games where you can mix in like solid base defense mechanics. It's always fun building up like a big defensive line that just like demolishes the army that's like coming in. Yeah.
There's it scratches an itch for sure.
Yep. I can easily sync like. Those are the games where you start playing and you're like, where did the last 10 hours go?
Yep. I love that so much.
Yeah.
You look over like, how is 4 hours gone by?
Yeah. I took one of your movie recommendations and I watched Anatomy of a Fall. And
that wasn't my recommendation. I've never seen that.
What? I swear you watched it a while ago and you were like,
Anatomy?
I watched this. Swear you said I watched Anatomy of a Fall and it was good.
No, I've never seen that movie. I've never even heard of that movie.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Must have been the other Matimia that I know.
The other Matimia.
Your doppelganger.
Some horror. It's crazy reviews.
Really good. Fantastic movie. It's hard to like it. It's basically about somebody who falls and dies.
Oh, damn.
And there is an investigation about it. And the whole movie is
the
about
anatomy of it.
The investigation, the trial, but it's the acting and the writing is superb because it does an amazing thing where better than I think any movie I've ever watched where it's kind of a whodunit type film where it's like,
those are fun.
Right. But this one truly keeps you perplexed, or not perplexed, but it gets you to go, oh, for sure they did it. Oh no, they're for sure they're innocent. Oh, for sure they did it. Oh, for sure they're innocent. Like the whole time, just masterfully. And it kind of, while also painting a really interesting picture of just the portrayal of evidence in a court case and how that can be everything, right? Where it's not about what evidence there is, but rather how it's portrayed and how that makes such a difference. And it's beautiful and disturbing all at the same time, right? Because you're like, God damn it. Like sometimes our lives are in the hands of our defense team, right? Like, do they know how to like portray this information in the most compelling way? Or,
sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes they get lucky.
Yeah. Fantastic movie. It sounds a little boilerplate, but I promise you it is anything but that.
It's all about the execution.
Yep. You take, I mean, you're like, oh, this could be an episode of CSI, right? But it's fantastic. It's really good.
There's only so many stories you can tell. It's how you tell them.
Mm-hmm. So that one gets like a 2 big thumbs up for me. That's a solid movie. I think it's on something. Hulu. I think you can watch it.
Nice. I might have to check it out.
Yeah. There was an F1 race over the weekend. It's getting interesting because Max is not on top anymore, Matt.
I love all the F1 drama. I have never seen F1 in my entire life, but it is fascinating.
There is so much drama with it too. It's really fun. There's always a team that's like breaking some rule by building their car in some way, getting disqualified. Right now, Max.
So why is Max not at top?
The car is not as good as it used to. Or
wow,
yeah, like Red Bull's trying to stay on top, but McLaren's car is doing great right now, and even Ferrari's doing solid right now, and Red Bull. I was reading something on Reddit where they said they have the 4th fastest car now, which I'm like, that's crazy. Because
just a year ago, you were telling me that they were like, head and shoulders above the competition.
Yeah, they were. And this last race, Max got beat by like the car in front of him was like 20 seconds in front or something.
That's
crazy.
huge. That's massive.
Yeah, you couldn't even see him. He was like, on the other side of the track. So it's cool to watch these epic swings because they just got back from their big break and everybody's like waiting to see which car progressed more tech wise, and it's like it wasn't Red Bull. So we'll see what happens. It's making the season more interesting because Red Bull could very easily and probably will lose the Constructor Championship, which is the most points both members of the team have generated together. Likely won't be enough to give them the Constructor Trophy this year. So that'll be interesting. Assuming that McLaren continues their rise, their meteoric rise, and Team Orange will get back on top. It's been fun to watch, man.
Neat.
Yep. You watching or reading anything?
Not really, no. Just been gaming. It's been, cleaning. I did a lot of cleaning. That's exciting, right?
What do you have to clean?
Cleaned
you got
up.
Like some books
I vacuumed and I've cleaned my bathroom. I cleaned myself. Got a haircut. Got the trimmed beard a little bit.
Feels good to clean.
Does feel good to clean.
You know what's really cool is when you clean the whole house and then like an hour later your kids have like destroyed everything. And you're just like, why do I bother?
Well, there's a difference between like cleaning up and cleaning,
Yeah, I get what you're saying. So you did like a deep clean where you're like...
Well, not like deep, but yeah, I got all my hands and knees and the floorboards, made sure I got like, the corners and the dusted and you know how it is, being responsible.
I like it. Yeah, it feels good when you're done.
Yeah, it does. Really does. You're like, oh, you look at the carpet, you're like, wow, look at that. Look at that carpet. Look at that carpet. Looks brand new.
See what I got here. I'll show you. Check this out. See that?
Oh my God, look at that.
Desk vacuum.
For all your Cheeto dust.
Look at that bad boy.
Sounds like a jet engine taking off.
Yeah, USB powered. Plug this thing in.
Damn.
I just like to clean up the dust on the keyboard and the monitors and
smart.
I got all your peripherals are black, so they all show dust like super easy. So I just dusting it nice and easy.
Question: do you eat at your keyboard with your do you like are you eating like not nachos, but like Doritos or anything, and then you touch your keyboard?
My Dorito days are over, Matt. I'm almost 40. Okay, I'm not eating Doritos anymore, but I do. Yeah, I'll snack. I'll snack at the desk, and then
I'll snack at my desk, but then I won't touch my keyboard.
I don't get nasty stuff on my keyboard. No.
Yeah, I don't know how people eat Mountain Dew or drinking Mountain Dew and Doritos and grabbing their control. I'm like, what are you doing? Just enjoy the food and then play.
I know.
Just back and forth.
My brother, one of my brothers, both of them, but one of them worse than the other. Would just just the nasty crap they'd have on their hand from eating. And then I'd be like, here, let me show you how to do a thing on your computer. And then I'd like grab the mouse and be like, oh, what the, and you're just so nasty, dude. I don't do that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you. Okay. I'm a bit of a germaphobe though. If you didn't gather that.
No, I mean, I'll get crumbs on my desk, but it's super easy to see them because I got a big black mouse pad, and so then that's
a little different than that you can just kind of wipe off.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't do anything. I do occasionally spill like a water on my mouse pad, which sucks.
Yeah,
but
it
is what it is. Yeah, I used to spill soda on my mouse pad, but I stopped drinking soda. So
good for you.
Thank you. I am embarrassed to admit how many keyboards I've destroyed by spilling soda into them. That's why it's my number one reason why I don't buy like this expensive Wooting keyboards, where like $200-$300 keyboards.
Oh yeah.
You know, like I would have
because you
one,
just kept destroying them.
but I'll destroy it. Yeah, I like have a price limit on what I'm spending on keyboards. I'm like, what am I willing to lose to?
And honestly, you
accident?
at this state in your gaming career, I don't think a high end keyboard is really going to assist too much. No offense.
What are you saying, Matt?
I'm speaking for myself.
Yeah,
I'm speaking for myself.
I gotta shave off those milliseconds, man. Gotta shave off that 0.05 millisecond on my movement reaction time.
It might help.
You know me.
It could.
I'm a movement shooter guy.
You are.
Yeah. No, I don't. If I was hardcore, sure, I'd get a wooting thing and then like adjust my lift off time and blah blah blah. But it's not that even in Battlefield. Like, really, are you gonna make a big difference?
Yeah. Battlefield's pretty casual.
Yeah, especially when your movement is acceleration based, you know, they give you an acceleration to reach maximum speed in this game so that the animations can catch up and it looks more natural and it frankly feels more natural because those high sensitivity movement shooter games, they don't feel right. They feel like a game, you know, and then the animation is like doing its best to try and like work its way into that insane movement system. So yeah, I like games with acceleration movement. And for that, you're really not going to need some crazy keyboard because you're not going to be wiggling back and forth anyway, because it's not going to do you anything.
Yep.
Battlefield has trained me that basic keyboard is good enough. If I was a hardcore Counter-Strike player, different story though. Or Deadlock. Maybe you're going to have a wooting keyboard
there you go.
In the next month, Matt, for your Deadlock.
Or I'll just enjoy it in my mediocrity and just have fun with being mediocre.
Yeah. You're going to be Diamond League.
Maybe. We'll see.
Well, you want to wrap up the old Potteroonie there, Matt?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. For everybody watching, thank you so much. And if you want to support the podcast, check us out on Patreon. We have some people watching live right now and chatting with us, and we'll be talking more after the podcast with them. We usually do a little 20-30 minute recap after the podcast, talk about some other things with our Patreon members. So check us out there. The link is in the podcast description. And Matt is going to leave you with some incredibly valuable device.
So when you're exploring around in the world, make sure you explore every nook and cranny, because you never know what cool things you might discover that will help you in your journey of life forward, like a cool item or device that could maybe assist you to defeat your enemies and bosses in battle.
You're going to be that dude with the metal detector on the beach, like in your old age, just like, I like finding stuff. I'm exploring in every nook and cranny, and I found a metal thing on the beach.
This was maybe a reference to Wukong, but I will neither confirm nor deny.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. That's your life advice, people. Search around for stuff.
Hey, we've been doing this podcast for a year. I think it's been a year now of podcasting.
That advice applies to some people. You know, some people will be like, I do need to search more.
We might need to come out with another intro or outro because, bro, I got nothing left. We're scraping the bottom of the barrel level cap. I got no more life advice. Eat your vegetables, exercise, you'll feel better.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments if you want a different outro plan for Matt. If you we got life advice, you want dating advice, what do you guys want? What do you want him to come up with next?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I like it.
That's it.
Let us know. And thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Peace out.
Bye.